All right, CNT120, we're continuing our work on our review of Chapter 1. We just mentioned kind of the history of kind of how we got to networks, and I mentioned real quickly kind of the uses of. If you kind of review back here, think of this network that we have at home, all of our devices sharing one internet connection, all of our devices being able to file and print share to this printer, to file server, that sort of thing. All good reasons for. Now, the book's going to start getting into some more details on more things that we can do with networks. Again, we're focusing a little bit more on the commercial side, and that is through with network services, using resources in network, the resources the network makes available to its users, including applications. Well, we can have some client-server applications, file and print services, and communications. So we're going to work our way through some of these. Some of the client-server applications that we use, and we all do, we do it every day, many times a day, we just don't think of it, are things like our web servers. In this case, if I think of a web server, I'm doing a client-server access. My client computer is accessing a web server, requesting data, and the server is responding to me, giving me my web page. And to do that, we need to use specific protocols, specific language, if you will, specific protocols on how to do that. And I use the example of a protocol. In the United States, we drive on the right side of the road, so all the signs are on the right side of the road, if you will. The lines are a certain way painted on the road to accommodate our cars driving on the right side of the road. That is now kind of a standard on how we do things in the United States. In computer world, if I want to request a web page, I'm going to use a specific protocol, HTTP, to send a request to the server. The server knows to listen for that and will respond with a web page. So, here are some popular client-server applications that we run into: web services, email, FTP, telnet, remote desktop, and remote applications. So the book's actually going to give you just a little bit of information on each one of these. The first one they talk about is our client-server application for web, and that's where my client asks the server for a web page, and the server responds with, here's the web page. That's a simple HTTP request. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. My browser communicates with a web server, and the web server responds with a web page. If I'm going to do any sort of like banking online, I'm going to communicate with my bank, and I'm going to see HTTPS, S on the end, indicating secure. So anytime I'm communicating with a bank or doing financial transactions online, buying something with my Visa card, I should see in my browser bar HTTPS. Now, it doesn't always have to just be buying something online. It could be something as simple as logging into my email account, if you will. That should be an HTTPS for secure. I'm going to show you those here in just a second. The other thing that they mentioned in here is web servers, the common web servers out there. Apache is the most common web server out there that runs mainly on Unix and Linux computers. We'll get to Unix and Linux here in just a few minutes, so don't panic if that sounds foreign to you. The other main web server that's out there is IIS. That is a web server that runs on a Windows operating system, a Windows server, if you will. But by far, Apache is the main web server you will run into. Alrighty, so let's just take a quick second here and look at HTTP. So I'm going to do something sneaky. I'm going to open a new web page in my browser here, and when I do, I'm going to use my packet capture or my protocol analyzer tool to capture the packets as I'm doing it. Later in, I think it might actually be in Chapter 2, they talk about a protocol analyzer. Real quickly, what this is going to do is this is going to capture packets off my network in real time so that I can look at them. Real quickly, it's a very powerful tool for troubleshooting, and in our case, learning. But warning, please note warning, this is a free application to use, but please don't install this and run it where you work, your place of work, because it's going to look like you're trying to snoop around the network or trying to compromise the network. So just a little warning on that. It's a very valuable tool for us for learning. It's also a very powerful tool for troubleshooting for network IT admins kind of thing. But don't, install this on your desktop at work and try to run it. It's going to look like you're trying to compromise or trying to snoop around the network, because what this is going to do is this is going to grab all the packets off the network to allow me to see them, almost like walking down the street and opening everybody's mailbox, which don't do, by the way, that's illegal. But it's like doing that. I'm gathering all kinds of data from the network, all kinds of packets from the network. So yeah, just a little word to the wise on that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new capture here on my packet capture tool. I'm going to go back to my browser and I'm going to load a new web page that I have not been to today. I'll load the IMSA web page. Yes, I'm a race car sports car racing fan, and this is their website. I'm going to let this load for a couple seconds, and while it's loading, what I'm doing is I'm capturing those packets in the background. Well, what I'll notice is I have loaded a www.imsa.com website, so this is an HTTP request. I'm going to look at those packets in just a second. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to go to well, let's go to something like My Hack and I pretend like I'm going to log in. What I'll notice in the top bar is I see HTTPS secure. So my login here, if I log into my Hack, account, if you will, this should be encrypted. So we'll just actually look at the comparison of those two when we look at our packet capture tool. I'm going to come back here and stop my packet capture. And I'm going to, as I see here, I see all kinds of different colored lines. What I'm seeing is the different packets that my computer generated. This is grabbing them to allow me to examine them. If I scroll down here and look at some of the first ones I see, HTTP, here is an HTTP packet that my computer generated. And actually, if I want to be super nerdy, let me do a DNS query, or look at a DNS. In here I should see some different queries that were done, including the query that I said, hey, what's the web page for imsa.com? And that was where my computer talked to the DNS server saying, give me the address of imsa.com, and then eventually, I'll put these back in order now, eventually my computer responds with, hey, here's the address, why don't you go talk to that server and get the web page. Excuse me. And if I go down here, here's where I actually request from the web server, give me some piece of your web page. So let's open this packet real quick. And in here I see, here's my Ethernet header, IP header, TCP header, here's my HTTP header. This is where I'm communicating with a web server to get some piece of information from the web server. And if I keep scrolling down through, I will see different HTTP requests where I'm getting specific information from the web server and it's sending them to me in little TCP packets here. Okay, so there's my HTTP protocol. It's me talking to the web server. Here's my IP talking to the web server IP 65202. That's me getting or asking for some HTTP data and it's sending it to me. Well, the other thing I did was the HTTPS, and if I do a sort here, I'm not going to find HTTPS, but I can find either SSL or, I'll do that, or what I come up with is TLS. This is me talking to the hack.edu web server, if you will, exchanging, and what I will see in here, exchanging information, and what I will see here, TCP secure socket layer, here is HTTP data that has been secured. So if I take a look at this and open this guy up, I will see in here TCP secure socket layer, and I see the application data is HTTP that has been secured. So there's my HTTPS, and if I were to open this, what I'm going to see is encrypted data. So there's really not much to see here, but there is my HTTPS. And again, that's going from my machine to, in this case, the my.hack.edu server, web server, and the secure socket is encrypting my communication. So there, super quickly, is one of the first things they talk about: HTTP and HTTPS, client-server application. My client computer connecting to the web server. All right. Well, one of the next ones they mention is email. Well, I think we're all fairly familiar with email. What's actually happening when you send an email is my client computer sends an email to a to an email server using SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. My computer sends it to the web. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, my brain is still in web. My computer sends the email to the email server, and then it's going to send it to your email server that you're connected to, maybe the Gmail server. maybe I'm sending my email from hack, my hack dlbrown at hack.edu email account. I'm sending you an email to your Gmail. So my email would leave here using SMTP, go to the hack.edu email server. It's then going to change it over to, or send it over to your Gmail server. And then when you log in, you're going to, excuse me, retrieve your email from the Gmail server using POP3 or IMAP4, Post Office Protocol, or IMAP4 protocol, Internet Message Access Protocol. You will retrieve your messages from the email server and display them on your screen. So again, another client-server application that we all probably do almost daily, or maybe even many times a day. And there's your SMTP, there's your Post Office Protocol. This is your sending. SMTP is your sending. Post Office Protocol is retrieving, if you will, and IMAP4 is retrieving, if you will. Another client-server application is FTP. All right. Well, FTP allows me to transfer files, large files, from my machine to a file server, or in some cases to like a web server. My wife, her website that she uses, she updates, or she does updates to our website using FTP, in this case, uses FileZilla to send the updated files to the web server using something that looks like this. This is actually a screenshot from FileZilla. Let me show you real quickly FTP. And actually, one of the things they mention here is FTP is not secure because it transfers data in clear text. Well, let me show you that real quick. Let me go back to my packet capture tool here, my Wireshark. I'm going to start a new session. So let's do a capture start. It's going to say, do I want to save it? No, I don't. I'm going to be nerdy, and I'm going to open up my command prompt. And I'm going to, let me clear my expression up here. Here we go. All right. Let me open up my command prompt. Let me clear all that out. Let me get a new capture going here. Here we go. All right. Let's try it again. Continue now. Save, and there we go. That looks better. So now I'm going to open up my command prompt, and I'm going to do an FTP, and I'm going to access ftp.kernel.org. That is a test FTP site. Oops, I need to open. There we go. To ftp.kernel.org. And it's going to say, okay, what name do I want to use? I want to do anonymous. That's a generic account I can use. And me@me.org is the password I will use. And I'm logged in. I can do a directory here. I can change to the public directory. I can list what's in here. Here's some files, and I can retrieve a file. Well, prior to web browsers, this is how you got around to get information. That's going to sound like, Dark Ages here, but that's what it is. I'm going to go back to my packet capture tool, and I'm going to stop my capture. I'm going to filter that I'm just seeing the FTP protocol, and I'm going to look at FTP protocol. There it is. And if I look at the captures, this is me connecting to, or starting to connect to. This is where I plugged in the username anonymous. Here's where I plugged in the password of me@me.org. Here's the FTP, transferring information in clear text. There it is. There's the password I use, me@me.org. Well, FTP is a way that I can exchange data, large files. I can download a large file, upload a large file, but it's not secure. It transfers the information in clear text. So when they say this here not being secure, that's exactly what they mean. It's being transferred in clear text. And that's also true for one of the other protocols they're going to mention here next to you. That is telnet. Telnet does the exact same thing. Actually, I'm going to pause. When I come back on the next one, I will show you telnet real quickly.